A longtime research psychologist is attempting to get the attention of the president with a way to universally test everyone in the country and get the economy up and running quickly and safely. He says if the White House implements his plan, it will be assured that President Trump's legacy will be that of a, quote, great hero. Joining me now is the senior research psychologist at the American Institute for Behavioral Research and Technology, Dr. Robert Epstein. Doctor, thanks for stopping in.
It's my pleasure, Patrick.
All right, universal testing for everyone in the country. That involves, according to your report, a cheap, disposable self-test for the coronavirus that is 95% accurate, something similar to a home pregnancy test. Before we get into a potential endorsement from President Trump, tell us why this test is the answer.
Well, because every other approach that's being used to deal with the problem is really a half measure. And all of these measures, even social distancing, wearing masks and so on, sheltering at home, they're just meant to slow the spread of the virus. And there is some evidence that they do slow the spread, but it keeps spreading. I mean, our cases go up each day. The number of deaths go up each day. Today we're expected to lose another 2,600 Americans to the COVID-19. But if we test everyone, and we have the resources to do it, not every country can, but if we test everyone, if they self-test using these little disposable devices, then we ask, or the president asks, the carriers to self-isolate. I think he would get very, very high compliance. And then the rest of us are free. Then 300 million people could return literally the next day to work and school with no need for social distancing, no masks, because the carriers are back home self-isolating. And another benefit of this, which is incredible, is that 3 weeks later, roughly speaking, the virus is dead because it's killed by the immune systems of the carriers. And it only takes a few weeks for that to happen. In other words, this method not only stops the transmission, it not only allows us to reopen the economy fully, it actually eradicates the virus from the entire population.
All right, and again, we are talking about universal testing, everyone receiving a test just as everyone would receive a census. Again, that's every American. Now, President Trump, as we've covered here on this network, said this week that maybe blanket testing was not necessary as states move to reopen, saying that he doesn't know if all of that would be necessary. So how do you change his mind? What do you say to the president if you could talk to him right now?
I would say, Mr. President, I appeal to you to just give this plan of universal testing, just give it a chance, because I believe that if you do this, I believe that you will be seen as a great hero. I think all of the countries in the world will imitate this method very quickly, and I think you will go down in history in a very positive way, and I think this, quite honestly, will be your legacy, and it'll be a very positive one. So I urge you just to consider this, to take a look at it, as an alternative to the many half measures which at the moment we're using.
Well, all of this, Dr. Epstein, comes down to the fact that there currently is not a vaccine. Does that shake your confidence at all when it comes to people testing themselves in order to get out of their house and get back to work? There's a lot of trust in this system that you're talking about here.
Well, we could sweeten up the trust with a little cash payment, because people under my plan only need to self-isolate for 2 or 3 weeks, not for months. So we could sweeten it with a $1,000 payment. Social service agencies could get out there and make sure that the homeless are tested and that undocumented immigrants are tested. So there are ways to really make this thing work. The point is, it's a very, very rapid way of dealing with the problem and dealing with it extensively. And by the way, if it's done right and done on a large scale, which President Trump can make happen, there will be no need for a vaccine, because we will have eradicated the virus from the population. We won't even need the vaccine.
All right, and finally, Doctor, and this is the obvious question. I know you fielded this question before, but you have received a lot of reaction from those in the media that this just simply makes sense. Why hasn't it been done yet? So what do you think your biggest hurdle is? Why hasn't this been done yet?
That is the question of the moment, maybe of the century. Uh, Personally, I don't understand it, but I think one reason is pretty simple, and that is I can't do it, you can't do it. In this country, there's only one person who can do this, and that is President Trump. And I think so far, he has simply not been informed about this possibility. I think it's that simple. I believe very strongly that if President Trump learned of this possibility, I think it would appeal to him tremendously. I think he would go for it in a split second. I think that's the last step we have to take. That's frankly why I'm on your network, because I know he loves your network quite a bit. And that's what I'm hoping. I can get the message to him, because I think he'll do it.
Quickly, Doctor, where can someone get more information on your plan on this?
You can go to killthevirusnow.com. That's one place where you'll get one of my recent articles, killthevirusnow.com. If you want to see the very latest, go to Newsmax. If you go to Newsmax, that magazine, which is at newsmax.com, you'll get my very latest article. But I've published quite a bit on this. Again, if you go to killthevirusnow.com, you can read it, one of the articles.
All right, we're in a crucial window of time here as the country does look to get back to some sense of normalcy. There are those who say that your plan deserves some very serious consideration. Again, that is universal testing across the board for every American, and as well as illegal immigrants as well. Is that, you mentioned that, and just before we go, you did mention that they would be able to be tested as well, or you would want them tested.
Absolutely. I think social service agencies would have to get involved for them and also for the homeless. But my plan also includes secondary screening, which means we have so many of these cheap devices around that for at least a month or two, we would also keep these devices at the entrances to theaters, restaurants, bars, stadiums, schools. And if you want to get inside, you've got to take the little test, and you've got to test negative. If you test positive, we send you home.
Okay. Dr. Robert Epstein, we appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.